Call the meeting to order. It's April 20th, 2021. First, we're going to take the oath of office of our new appointed council members. Oh, do we do? No, I don't.
What?
This is oath of office and then roll call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we roll call after we have them inducted.
Judge?
My brain is off.
I guess it was the new city council members and the two re-elected council members come forward, please.
So I'll just stay.
Please state after me. I state your name.
I, Corey Moss,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the city ordinances of the city of Jenks,
the city ordinances of the city of Jenks,
as well as the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the state of Oklahoma,
as well as the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of Oklahoma,
and that I will not knowingly receive directly or indirectly
and that I will not knowingly receive directly or indirectly
any money or other valuable thing
any money or any other valuable thing
for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty
for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty
pertaining to my office
pertaining to my office,
other than compensation allowed by law.
other than compensation allowed by law.
I further swear or affirm
I further swear or affirm
that I will faithfully discharge my duties as a Jenks City Council member
that I will faithfully discharge my duties as a Jenks City Council member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Sir.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. It's your day. Come on. Bring your boy. Soon price is right thing and wave it.
Or your mask off.
That's great. Thank you. Right here. Thank you. Now, Mr. Macy, may we please have roll call.
Caitlin?
Here.
Isabel? Present. Murray? Here. Klein? Present. Fox?
Here.
Short?
Here.
Vice Mayor Ritchie?
Here. And we'll have an invocation by Pastor Lucas Smith with the Battle Creek Church. Please welcome.
Want to present to you guys just an offering from our church, just to thank you for your time and for everything that you do for your city. So this is Greg. I appreciate you helping. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening, Father, just honored to be able to call ourselves your children. And Father, tonight we just ask for your wisdom. Father, as we read that Solomon asked for your wisdom in the scriptures, Father, we ask for your wisdom tonight. Father, would you fill our hearts with your joy and Father, with your passion for life. Father, would we be a community, Father, that seeks to serve you and to love others. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together as a chamber tonight, Father. And Father, may everything that we do be pleasing to you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll have the election of the mayor. Any candidates? Any nominations?
If I may, Vice Mayor, I would like to nominate a long-term city council member, not myself, but I would like to nominate Corey Box for the position of mayor for the city of Jenks.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, let's vote.
And if you would just say that,
Staff 3 times.
Oh, sorry.
Just, you have to ask 3 times if there's any nominations.
Okay. Any other nominations? Anyone at all? Any other nominations? Okay, so moved.
and we'll vote by just saying the name of the person that
Yep.
you would like to be mayor.
Kaylin,
Yes.
The
But
name.
could you say the name of the person?
Corey Box.
Isabel,
Box.
Murray,
Corey Box.
Klein,
Corey Box.
Fox,
Corey Box.
Short,
Corey Box.
Busher.
Corey Box. So moved. We switched to musical theater. Congratulations.
Well, first thing, let me say thank you to the fellow members of the council. It's a great honor to be chosen by you guys to represent you. It's really nice that it to be unanimous. I think for everybody that's in the audience, we've got a really unique opportunity here to get started with a new council that I think is as unified as we've ever been. We have an opportunity to really look at some major things that we want to do together, and outside of major floods, potential health disasters, we've got a really good opportunity to have unanimous consent and have more unity than we've had in a long time. So we're on all these big things that we need to do, we're looking for partners to help us, and it's all of you. Some of you are more involved than the rest, but we would really like to see double attendance at these town hall meetings. We have only so many ideas amongst us. We got a couple new folks, but we really need all of your help. There's so much work to be done. We have a very aggressive plan, but we're asking all of you guys to come alongside with us and push us from behind. We have high expectations of our city staff, and they're going to be harder because you guys have high expectations of us. So you guys are going to push us harder, and we're going to push them harder. And we're going to look for some quick wins and some immediate results. But we're asking you to get behind us and help us get there, because we really do want to change the landscape for our city. So thank you for the opportunity to serve. It's truly an honor. And with that being said, at this particular point, we, of course, we need a vice mayor. So are there any nominations on the floor for the role of vice mayor, city of Jenks?
Mayor, I would like to nominate our current, not necessarily outgoing vice mayor, Ms. Donna Hodges.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Are there any other nominations for position of vice mayor, city of Jenks? Are there any other nominations for vice mayor, city of Jenks? And last call, are there any nominations for vice mayor for the city of Jenks? Okay, there are no other nominations. We have one nomination. That's Councilor Donna Oj. Mr. Macy, let's go ahead and take a vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes, Donna OJ.
Isabel,
Donna O'Shea.
Murray,
Donna OJ.
Klein,
Donna O'Shea.
Box,
Donna Oj.
Short,
Donna Oj.
OJ.
Donna OJ.
Congratulations, Donna Oj.
And now you'll move.
Very good. Let's do this. Welcome to the, how you get to move.
Musical chair.
And I'm gonna go around.
High five.
Thank you.
I'll clean out my stuff later. Okay, at this particular time, I'd like to take a quick moment to do something I don't do very often, and I hope we can do more of. Citizens recognition. I would like to ask Mrs. Charlotte Montgomery to join me up front center, if you would, please. Charlotte is my good friend. She's my neighbor from down the street. She's indirectly the reason I'm here. You know that, right?
Yes.
Elgin Estates.
Yes.
Elgin Estates is what got me here. Somehow or another, she convinced some lady in her neighborhood to walk by my house one day when I was mowing the grass and sucker me into representing the city or representing our neighborhood at this council meeting here.
That was 6 years ago.
That was a long time ago. And fast forward, here we are. We got what we wanted out of Elgin Estates, though, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So we did. So it's a victory. The last couple of years, Charlotte has been very, very involved in helping not only me, but I think I can hopefully speak for some of you as well. She's taken a huge interest in planning and zoning, more so than most people. I don't even really know how to define why you're so interested in all of these things. But that being said, she's been invaluable. She sends lots of emails. She researches all these things quite extensively and provides a lot of guidance to us. And in many respects, I think she knows it more than most of us. And that's a good thing. When I talk about needing partners, we need more Charlottes. Her and her husband Keith are wonderful volunteers for the city of Jenks. Keith is always volunteering his time at the aquarium. If I could have done this for the two of you, I certainly would have, but you've been personally a huge supporter of mine, and I'm a huge supporter of yours. There's really no way to, this is a kind of an informal thing that I came up with on my own. I know you're not into hunting, but I came up with, as a military guy, I had to create an acronym. So Decoy stands for the Dedicated and Engaged Citizen of the Year. This is for 2020. The beauty of this is it was made here in Jenks by Greg Bowman. So I just want to take an opportunity to recognize you, and I hope you guys will learn that this is something we should do more and more and more. If we have people that are helping us get to the next level, let's take an opportunity to recognize them. So you and everything you've done is so beyond expectation, and you're so valuable. And I hope this is just a small token of our appreciation for all that you do. And we can't wait to have you back and engaged again.
Thank you,
When you're
Mayor.
done doing all those fun things that you're doing with your husband right now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate you so much. And it smells because it was literally picked up 30 minutes ago. Everybody sniffing. Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, at this point, we are open to citizens' comments. If anybody in the audience would like to comment on anything that is not on the current agenda, you're welcome to come forward. This is your house. All we ask is your name and your physical address, and you can speak about anything you want that is not on the current agenda. Going once. Going twice, going three times. Thank you very much. All right. Item number 1, the consent agenda. Would anybody on the council like a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, I would just ask that staff requests that item G and item H be pulled. We will bring that at the next regularly scheduled council meeting. So G and H. And then I think Councilor Lynn would like to discuss item M. So the consent agenda would be everything but G, H, and M.
Okay.
So we're asking to discuss item M in the second item on the agenda.
Okay. Mr. Murray, didn't you have, were you,
That's cool. H was one of them.
H is one? Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve item number 1 with the exceptions of items G, H, and M? Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mason, we have a motion and a second. Roll vote, please.
Taylor? Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. City staff has asked that we pull letters G and letter H, and we are not discussing those tonight, correct?
No.
Okay, so that leaves letter M. Is Lynn, is that you?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Letter M is just for clarification on documentation. And Officer Shout is here tonight to show we're going to change because of traffic flow and the way it drops businesses. And correct me, officer, the comments is going to be a closure between Second Street on Second Street between Main and 8th Street because of the flow of traffic on a Saturday and the way it affects businesses on Main Street that day.
Yes, the cover sheet, I actually had a typo. I had originally had but the closure, the event applicant asked for Main to the alleyway. I pushed it to A for safety. It won't be a hard closure. It'll just be some barricades out there. The parking will still be open there, but the hard closure will be the alley to Main Street on Second.
So the alley immediately north of Main will remain open for businesses and parking.
But they'll have to enter it on 3rd Street.
Yeah, it'll be the alley from Main Street to the alley will be the
Yeah,
hard closure.
the hard closure, but there'll be a barricade out on A, but you could still get through
Correct.
to access the alley. So.
Your third.
You'll-
The alley,
Through Second.
I won't close the alley at all.
Right, but to access the alley.
You'll still be able to access the alley.
Through Second. There'll just be one
The
barricade.
point of the barricade at A Street is to deter some traffic, so somebody doesn't go whipping through there and come into the event area.
Okay.
So the B is a typo?
B is a typo,
So it is,
correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sorry about that.
And then, just the other comment is, on page 197, it says, after reviewing the special event application and meeting with the applicant, the majority of the committee voted to, and this is just a template that we've used. And so I think in the future, we'll actually say whether it was unanimous or.
Yeah, I'll change the form for that.
But this was unanimous.
It was unanimous.
And if there is any dissent or if somebody has an objection to it, it will be listed so we council will know what the objection was. To factor that into our discussion.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we need to vote on that.
Absolutely.
M.
Bill M. Thank you, sir. Is that to your satisfaction? Okay. Any other comments on item M? Okay. Mason, let's vote, please.
So a motion to approve then?
Yes, motion to approve item M of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. Let's vote.
Caitlin?
I have a question. Don't we have to say amend to A?
A street instead of B street.
Yeah. So we'll,
Would you like to make the motion?
To A street.
Would you like to make the
Go ahead.
motion?
No, go ahead, you can make it, then we'll.
Can you make the motion?
Yes. I'm sorry, I can't understand you, Craig. Yes, I'll make a motion to approve it with the amendment to make it A street instead of B street. And that in the future, that it will say unanimous majority, so that we will know. That's right.
Okay, so the whole amendment then is okay on that with future, yeah, okay, I'll second.
Yep. Motion and a second. Vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Ogier?
Yes.
Mayor Mark?
Yes. Item number 2. Item number 3, appoint a member of the city council to the Incog Board of Directors as the City of Jenks alternate. We currently have Councilor Isbell is currently our primary representative of the Incog board. My perspective, I think he's done a great job at this particular point. Would anybody else on the council like to nominate themselves for the role, or any thoughts one way or the other?
I'd like for him to stay. He gives a very good and detailed report of Incog. He's very thorough.
Yeah, I agree. It's good having somebody that's got a little bit of the experience and knowledge and the people that he's working with. And I would highly recommend him to continue.
And we're just asking for an alternate, I believe. So he's the existing,
I'm the existing.
oh, you're the existing alternate?
The mayor is the board member.
Okay.
And I'm the existing alternate.
Well, it's, okay.
Yeah. I might be able to join you once or twice, but I appreciate it if you can keep going.
You're welcome.
I think for the sake of continuity, I think he's the perfect choice.
I agree.
Would anybody like to nominate Councilor Isbell to remain as our alternate to the Incog authority?
To nominate Councilor Isbell to continue with his
Mhm.
role as our representative at the Incog board in the absence of Mayor Dodd.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Do we vote by name or yes or no?
Well, we only had one nominee, so yes, I think it's
Well,
understood.
yes.
Murray?
Isbell, yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Ogier?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item number 4, appoint a member of the city council to the Jenks Aquarium Authority. As we know, we currently, the mayor, the vice mayor, and the council member from Ward 1 are the default members of the 4 that represent the JA from the city council. Currently, Councilor Murray sits in that position. Would anybody else, is there any discussion on this? I personally, once again, would be in favor of leaving Councilor Murray there. He was recently appointed as late as May of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. He was a newly appointed. Frankly, he's been to almost every JA meeting since the beginning, since 4 years. And I don't think anybody knows as much as he does. So once again, for the sake of continuity, that'd be my recommendation unless anybody else disagrees.
I would absolutely second that.
Excellent. Can we have a nomination, please? Motion for a nomination.
I move that Councilor Murray remain on the JAA committee.
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second for Councilor Murray. Vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel? Yes. Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Ogier?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Thank you.
You know, I gotta say that the light here is significantly brighter than the ones over there.
Yeah.
I can barely see. And it's gonna take some getting used to. Some sunglasses. Item number 5, request to approve ordinance number 1550, repealing ordinance number 1541, which mandated face coverings in public. This is Nolan.
Mayor, members of council, our current ordinance that mandates face coverings expires May 31st, or the earlier of May 31st, the expiration of all the governor's emergency orders or repealed by council. At this time, the governor's emergency orders are still in place. So it has been, the proposed ordinance before you is set to repeal the existing ordinance as of April 30th at 11:59 p.m.
Thank you. Any comments from Vice Mayor Roget? Start off comments to the council.
I have been a proponent of the mask mandate all this time, and I see that with the numbers, the way they're going, with the information, with the doctors who have come and visited with us and given us information, and with the city of Tulsa letting theirs expire. Not that I want Jenks necessarily being the follower, but I think for the recommendation of everything involved around the county and the way things are looking, I would say that this is probably a good idea to go ahead and pull it. And then still with the encouragement that they say people's social distance, wash your hands and wear a mask if you feel comfortable. I'm fully in support of letting this go at the end of April.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any other comments from council?
I'd like to make a couple of comments.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Last
Russo.
year, when we talked about mask mandate, several things came to mind. I lost friends, family members. There were no hospital beds available, no respirators available. There was talk of a vaccine, but nothing concrete at that point in time. So I was in favor of mask mandate to protect the employees in the cities, the employees and the citizens of Jenks. Things have changed between then and now. At that time, I took my son to the doctor, and after I checked him in with the physician's assistant, they said, "Mr. Isbell, please go wait in the car in the parking lot." That was surreal to me. Things were different. Today, the state has opened up vaccinations to those from outside of Oklahoma. We have over 50% of the people that have received at least one vaccination. And I purposely waited until all of our first responders and perhaps public works employees had the opportunity to get a vaccination first. Then my wife signed me up. So here I am. I'm in the middle of my vaccinations. I've had one. I get my second one Tuesday. With that being said, after your second vaccination, if you have the 2-shot vaccination, you need to keep yourself safe for 2 weeks. Be careful. I want everybody to be careful. I am in favor of lifting the mask mandate at this time, but I want to reassure everybody that the health and well-being of our citizens, our first responders, and each and every one of us is my main priority. Thank you.
I think it would be interesting for y'all to know that I checked the Oklahoma State Health Department's dashboard today before I came, and we have 20 cases in Jenks. That's 1 in 1,000. So that tells us how good that we're doing, and I think it's appropriate for the mask mandate to go away.
Any further comments from council? Okay, we can close the floor to the council. Any comments from city staff, public? Dr. Marsh? Remember the drill, sir. Name, address. Thank you very much.
I can't say take Jenks. My name is Rob Marsh. I'm a surgeon. I live in Southwest Jenks. I want to applaud you guys for progressing this. I think you can see what happens when you get a lot of misinformation. One of them, hospitals are never full. And that, as a city council, should be something that's alarming. I worked in the hospital. I'm in the hospital. You could drop a penny in it and hear it. So as a city council, that's something that should be alarming. Why are we getting information? So when we talk about mask mandates, really understand you're talking about individual rights. And in the future, I promise you, you are going to have another round. It's coming. So I hate to say that, but this is real. Individual rights are the establishment of this country. The Constitution never should be aborted like it was. I have data right now, Stanford University, which is a real conservative university. You can look it up, it's public, it's what they said. They basically went out and said, there is no science behind masks. Everything we did was detrimental. But what we do know is masks, social distancing with kids, extremely devastating. So in the future, if this comes up, be very cautious about being reactive regarding feelings. I live in this field. I live behind a mask. I tell all my patients get rid of it because I can show you data point after data point after data point, the chronic use of masks. So I applaud you guys for coming together. I think great things are going to happen. But I think we need to always remember individual freedoms in the future, because I agree. I lost friends over this. I mean, I switched churches over this. And we should never be like this in the country, ever again. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Marsh. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll close the floor to the public. We are voting on item number 5, which is request to approve ordinance number 1550, as previously stated, to repeal ordinance number 1541. In this particular case, we'll call for a vote. And if you are in favor of repealing the ordinance, simply say yes. If you are not in favor, then please say no. Mr. Mason.
Need a motion. Yeah.
Of course, we need a motion. Of course.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Ogier and a second by Councilor Lynn. Let's call the roll, please.
Caitlin,
Approved.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. And as a reminder to the public, our mask mandate expires at the end of the month. It doesn't expire tonight. And if you are a business owner, you own your business. We do not. If you are an individual, you own your rights. We do not. The building that we're in currently, we have a mask mandate in effect at the end of the month. And out of respect for our staff members, we're going to go ahead and honor that whenever we possibly can. So, but for everybody else, to kind of get ahead of all the Facebook stuff that's probably going to happen, it's your business and it's your body, it's your right. Do whatever you deem is necessary, and we'll be responsible and respectful along the way. So thank you to the council. Okay, item number 6 is request to approve the emergency clause for ordinance number 1550, making it effective as effective date of the ordinance. And Mrs. Nolan, if you could please, for our newer members and for the sake of educating our audience, can you please explain the emergency clause to us one more time?
Certainly. Emergency clause, the actual clause reads that an emergency is now declared to exist for the preservation of the public peace, health, and safety by reason of the ordinance will take effect, and this one would take effect April 30th at 11:59 p.m. Without an emergency clause, an ordinance generally will not go into effect until 30 days after it is published. Usually we can get something published within a day, possibly two, Brandon says. So about 32 days. With an emergency clause, it can go into effect immediately or on a date stated shorter than this 32. So this one we don't need immediately, but we need on April 30th. The other effect an emergency clause has is when we publish the ordinance in the Tulsa World, we do not have to publish the full ordinance. We only have to publish the title, which describes the ordinance if an emergency clause is passed. So it is a savings in money for the city as well.
Thank you. And just to add some comments to that, Councilor Murray, I think in 4 years, have we never, ever not voted for an emergency clause?
Well, we almost didn't last.
Oh, there was one that
Right.
I was discussing a lot of, but no, we have not.
Yeah, well, and to explain a little bit further, to pass an emergency clause, we need a 3/4 vote at council, which rounded up to get a whole person means we have to have 6. So I think we maybe have had a time when we didn't have 6.
And the only
councilors.
people in the city that knew that last night were you and former Councilor Bo Summers.
Probably so.
Yeah.
So it's rare, but there could be a case.
I mean,
where
I
we
read
don't
the
have the
emergency
6.
clause until that.
I'll talk about the supermajority.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. When he and I were on the same page and everybody else, we said no to emergency clause. We had to rethink it.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion for,
Motion to approve the emergency clause.
Second.
we have a motion and a second for item number 6. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Mas.
Yes. Item number 7, request to approve JZ 21 PUD 128, a request by Select Design for approval of a rezoning from agricultural to RS3 residential single family high density and a planned unit development. The general location is south of First Street on West 111th Street, page 222 of your packet if you are following along. This is Marsh Hilton. You can pass these down.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Mayor Box. I apologize. I got those ready and thought I would be down here in time. This just took me too long to get downstairs. So thank you for graciously passing those around. This item has a rezoning and a preliminary plat. The rezoning is from Ag to RS3 and it has a PUD overlay. And tonight I'll try to go into a little more detail because we have some new counselors and Counselor Klein, I apologize. I was down the hall chatting about something very important, I'm sure, when you came through. So I didn't get to meet you. But so there's 2 approvals and the rezoning is 2 parts. So it states that Ritz Hollow is JZ PUD 128. Planning Commission did vote 6-0. There was 1 commissioner absent. We generally have 7 commissioners to approve the zoning on it, and they voted 6-1, which the one being the person absent, to approve the preliminary plat. We had, at the time of the Planning Commission report, at the time I submitted the report, which you know goes in several days prior to the meeting, I did not have any questions. And but I did hear from Mr. and Mrs. Rogers, and they had quite a few questions. I forwarded those to the applicant as well as circulated it internally with the staff. And we got, I did not respond by email, but I tried to address all of them during the planning commission meeting. Unfortunately, I actually forgot, I think about the screening, maybe one other thing during the meeting that night. That particular meeting was virtual. And there was 1 person who randomly showed up. I guess they didn't understand that it was virtual. So we had myself and, no, I was virtual. I was here.
No.
I was here. Myself and Brandon and 1 citizen was present for that meeting. And like I said, it was supposed to be all virtual. So since that time, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers asked to meet with staff. And we did meet with them. And the information that I have in front of you, I'll go over in a little bit if you want, but it's basically addressing the questions of Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. So they had several questions, but first I'd like to talk to you about the actual project. Mr. Ryan McCarty is present. He is representing the applicant. He is from Select Design. The Technical Advisory Committee is a group of utility companies, including the school and the post office, et cetera. So we send our plats out to the community for review. That's also lot splits and other things. The Technical Advisory Committee looks at those, and then they give us comments back. There was just a couple of comments on this particular project. This is in Ward 6. The current zoning is ag. And I'm currently looking at page 223 of your packet or page 207 of my staff report. If you go to page 224, it talks about the comprehensive plan. And this was one of the questions that Mr. and Mrs. Rogers asked. And in that particular area where this request is being made, it's surrounded by ag properties. These properties are not, there's no cattle grazing particularly. It's mostly single family homes that have never been rezoned. And we consider that undeveloped in the planning world. The general location is south of 111th, closer to Elm, but between Elm and Elgin. The property is currently unplatted It's about 13.5 acres. And as I said, there was none at the time of the Planning Commission report. There were no public comments. So the PUD has, they really want to protect the natural lay of the land. There's a blue line stream that runs through there, and there's a lot of vegetation around it. And they've actually laid out the design of the streets and the homes, or I should say lots in this case, to not interfere with that, but they still have to go through the 404 Clean Water Act process. They're aware of that, and they've already started that process. There will be landscape entry features. It's standard. There'll be masonry, stucco screening walls with stone columns. One of the questions, they'll have dedicated sitting areas with benches. Of course, they will require additional trees. And just so that you all know, Jenks is a tree city, USA, and we love trees. And our city manager has been on a journey to get as many trees planted in the city of Jenks as possible. And when we go through the subdivision process, we also require a lot of trees and a lot of landscaping. They'll have a detention pond and passive recreation on the site. It's a small development. It's only 13 acres. It's not a lot of room for a club, a house, and pool, etc. Overall, they have about 2 acres of green space out of 13, which is pretty significant for a development. On page 225 or page 4, this is a chart that I like to use. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, but it essentially comes straight out of our code. So the city of Jenks has a bulk and area standards. And this one shows what does RS1 look like in the code? What does RS2 look like? What does the PUD say? And then what does RS3 look like? With that, I am going to tell you that these dimensions, like lot width, RS1 100, RS2 75, the PUD 66, and RS3 65, those numbers are going to change significantly with the update of the Unified Development Ordinance. Because if you remember, House of Levine made a presentation and they showed us what the city has approved for decades versus what the code says, and the new code will align more with what has actually been approved for years and years and years versus what the code said, which is a big reason why there are a lot of PUDs, because the demand, the public demand does not really meet the old code that's been around for hundreds of years, probably at least a few decades. If you look on page 226, I put a site map so you can see the general location. Down at the bottom of page 5 of 7 or page 226, you're going to see there's about 40 homes. One of the biggest issues that we had, public safety is very important in every community, and we have distances that are required for cul-de-sacs, etc. And in this case, we try to get these plans in front of the fire chief, fire marshal as quickly as possible so that they can review them and they can work with the engineering staff to get things realigned if they need to. One of the requirements is to develop the street that it goes to Elgin. So you can see here on page 5, that's I kind of popped that out for you all. On page 227, there's a comprehensive plan map. And the comprehensive plan was phase 1 of the consultant work with House of Levine was hired in 2019 to update the comprehensive plan and update the zoning ordinance. They started and we adopted it in 2020. The comprehensive plan shows in that area medium intensity single family homes. Like I said, there are a lot of large parcels with ag property, but in the analysis, they felt like if that area develops and when, that it would develop similar to the pattern that is consistent with the rest of Jenks. Approving this rezoning and PUD request and preliminary plat will allow the developer to move forward with advanced engineering, design, and development. So most of you have been down this road in conversation many, many times, but for those of you who maybe have not, the developer doesn't generally spend all their money right up front getting engineering done, because when we go through a zoning, a rezoning, or a PUD, we're asking ourselves the question, do we want this use in this area? So do we want houses here? The comprehensive plan says yes. So we're like, check, we can check that off. Do we want this density? The comprehensive plan is a guide. It says yes. So they meet those two standards. We set a vision through the comprehensive plan, and this project meets that vision. I don't get off in the weeds with engineering or hydrology. I'm not an engineer. And a PUD is not to answer engineering questions. A rezoning is not about engineering. That's done between two engineers. And it's a very technical process, and it's a very detailed process. So if you look at page 228, I know this is really long and I'm talking really slow, but
Sorry.
I'm trying to make sure everybody understands. So on page 228, it talks about the PUD language, and this is in our zoning code. It's literally, it's in blue, it's italicized because it's exactly from the code. I did put in parentheses where it says consider. So when you're looking at a planned unit development, you have 4 things to consider: whether the PUD is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And in this case, the PUD is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Whether the PUD harmonizes with the existing and expected development of the surrounding area. If you're looking at the existing development, it's considered undeveloped and it is not consistent. But do we believe that it is consistent with the expected development? And I would say yes to that. Whether, number 3, whether the PUD is unified treatment of the development possibilities of the site. And I think in this case, Select Design has worked well with the developer for a 13-acre parcel and has done a good site layout, and I would say a good concept. Number 4, whether the PUD is consistent with the stated purposes and standards of this chapter. And I would agree with the information that's been given. So there are about a couple of comments from staff, and this is not, I generally put in there not a complete list because there's that random thing that pops up later. And I end up reaching out to the consultant and saying, hey, I know it wasn't in my staff report, but you got to do blah, blah. And they know it, and they know what the code says, and they probably knew it before I did that they had to do it. But continue to work with staff on connection to Elgin. So that's that little parcel that I showed you earlier. Sidewalks are required internally and along the street frontage. They've agreed to that. There's no issue there. Keep staff updated as they move through the design and 404 process. And they didn't know at the time of submittal what PUD number it is, so I had them to add that. And if there's any other PUD corrections. So I went ahead, this is items number 7, 8, and 9 on your agenda. So number 7 is the actual rezoning. And number 8 is the plat. I don't have the agenda in front of me. And number 9, no, maybe not. What's number 8?
PUD.
Okay, sorry. The rezoning and PUD will be one action tonight. I will not recommend that you rezone it and then decide if you want the PUD. It's all or none. So the PUD and rezoning are one action, and then the ordinance will be number 9. If you look on page 229, starts the actual document that I received from Select Design, Mr. McCarty. On page 230, it has the same site map that I've already given you. It has a little development concept. On page 231, this is the information that I put into that chart that I showed you earlier. And then on page 232, they're going to talk about signage, access, and the soils. These are things that are required in our code for them to include in their PUD. There's utilities and drainage, environmental and open space consideration, amenities, site plan, the planning requirement, and their construction schedule. So if the estates at Ritz Hollow is approved tonight, then they hope to begin the next steps in May. And they would like to be ready, complete and ready for lot sales in spring of 2022. On page 234 is the legal description, and then you go into the exhibits on page 235. So that's the same exhibit that I showed you earlier. Here's an aerial photograph on page 236. And then page 237, you see the topography. It's going to show you the topo, the different lines. So the very last page there is kind of, if you look here, this is the street that we're talking about. Originally, they did not have the 50-foot right-of-way dedicated here, but they've added that in since then. So they're showing you, I kind of blew it up and let you see that. So with that being said, staff does recommend Planning Commission recommends, and the Technical Advisory Committee does recommend approval of the rezoning and the PUD for estates at Ritz Hollow.
I have
Like I said,
one, hang on a second, Marcy, and Gary and I were just talking about that, and Gary brought it up, but I was looking for this in your comments. Yeah, it says PUD 127, but on
Oh,
item
yeah,
7, it requests approval of JSC 121, PUD 128.
That's my error.
So which one is it, 128?
128.
So
So we just do the correct.
Yep.
correction on page 228.
Correct.
It was error. Okay, he caught it, but I was like, I was looking. for
Thanks, Gary.
127, I'm like, oh, 127. Okay, thank you for your clarification.
Sure. Thank you for catching that. Here, got it. So in regards to Mr. and Mrs. Rogers, we did meet with them. One of their questions is previously when they did their lot split, and I'll show you where their property is. It's a little bit hard to see. So this is the actual lot that we're talking about. They live right here.
I can't see.
So I'll show you right here. So they are directly south. And
Where it
then,
says subject track.
okay, so they're right, top of that. So this square was 10 acres and then they lot split off 2.5 right here.
Okay.
Standard lot split procedure, and you'll see that in the memo that I gave you. We require a utility easement during the lot split process. And because they wanted to lot split, the lot that they were creating, and technically the lot that they were on was not connected to street right of way, and that is also required. You can't have a structure or building on a lot without a dedicated street. So those are the two things that was required during the lot split. The other thing is they wanted to connect to sewer, and sewer is available from the north property line. City code has not and would not allow for the city tax dollars to pay for it to go along the west, west or east, and then down to the south. So we did have a meeting. If they want to connect, then that would be a conversation they would follow up with the city engineer, and they cannot connect without city water. At this time, they have Creek 2 water, and so that would also be a process. They would have to coordinate through that. I cannot promise 100% if that can all be achieved, but extension of private sewer is at the cost and expense of the individual, and we are required to bring it to the property line or to the easement.
Which is the northern border.
Yeah.
Their northern border is the southern border of
Correct.
Ritz.
So there's connection about right in here, which is the south boundary of the Ritz Hollow and the north boundary of their property.
Can you show that, please, Brandon, up here for everybody else in the audience? Be like right there.
There were a couple of other questions about abandoned structures in that area. We did reach out to code enforcement, and I guess they are just abandoned. They're on ag property, and currently the way that our code is written, our code enforcement cannot do anything about ag properties. So
Are they completely abandoned? There's
I
nobody.
believe they are.
So
Who's the owner of?
do they just, we can talk about it in executive session.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to have a conversation.
Do they stay abandoned if we have no authority to?
It's a really long
Well-
conversation. And
Would at some point, we have 40 new homes moving in with kids. The kids are gonna dare each other to go into these structures at some point.
That was my point.
Are they safe? Do anybody go and determine whether they're safe to remain abandoned? I'm just throwing out.
I can look at the legal issues on this. I haven't been asked to do so, so I think there probably are remedies we just take.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that with abandoned properties, is there anything that we can do to possibly not have a safety issue for?
right.
I think there are.
we could possibly set up training for police and fire.
I think that they may have already taken, had that luxury.
Fire extinguisher training.
Right. So, do any of the council members have any questions for me?
There was also the question on fencing.
Oh, that's right. So this has come up a couple of times lately on multiple subdivisions, and this is a gated community, and they'll immediately put the perimeter fence along 111th Street. But because of grading and building and sodding, et cetera, they don't generally put the privacy fence up until the lot is built on. So I buy the lot, my home gets built, my fence goes up last. And then that way it's put at the correct level. It doesn't impair drainage on the adjacent properties, et cetera. So that was one of the questions that Mr. and Mrs. Rogers had for staff, and that was that there would be screening, but it would not be put up immediately. It would be put up as the lots developed.
So do we have any kind of stipulations to what kind of fencing we're looking at?
It's a 6-foot
Privacy fence.
Any more questions for Ms. Marseille Hilton from the council? No more questions, no more comments. We can close the floor to the council. Does Mr. McCarty is the applicant here? Anybody? Yes, sir.
Ryan McCarty, Select Design, PO Box 548, Bixby, Oklahoma.
Good evening.
Good to see you guys. Congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Marseille does a very, very good job of basically my job. So I'll answer any questions you have. I don't think you mentioned it's private streets. It's a private street, private gated subdivision. I'll answer any questions you guys have.
Just curious, price point.
500 to 600,000.
Is this going to be similar to Paddington Heights across the street? Similar. Okay.
And the Brumbles are developing and building.
So they're going to they're building all 40 homes?
That's what they're planning on doing. Market's pretty hot right now.
Any comments or questions from the council for Mr. McCarty?
I guess, I noticed in the one drawing, it shows there's a house there on 111 that's right in the front of the beginning. The property is that being bought out then, I assume, and moved its levels and everything like that?
Correct.
Yes, thank you.
There's another structure in the southwest corner as well. It'll go.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we can open the floor to the comments or concerns from Mr. Calvert, Mr. Rogers. You're welcome to join us, sir. We could just start off with your name and address. That'd be appreciated. And don't forget to tell us about what you used to do for a living.
Way back in the dark ages, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I was going to I'll start off with Stephen Rogers. I live at 949 West 115th Street, and that's the parcel just to the south of the development. Excuse me. I was going to start off by thanking Councilman Box, but I guess that's been amended. So, Mayor Box, thank you very much for your time yesterday. Appreciate you taking a look and discussing and
made it home without a single tick.
I had 3. So I also wanted to make sure.
I didn't have any ticks, honey, I promise. I don't know. He didn't tell me he had any ticks. I had no ticks. I'm without tick. He is with ticks.
All right, let's move on.
Promise.
I also wanted to make sure to thank Marseille Hilton and Chris Cloyd for spending the time with us in the meeting, going through our concerns. There weren't a ton of answers to be had at the time, but we voiced our concerns, and one of those that is still outstanding, and I probably am addressing this in a side fashion to Mr. McCarty, that at some point in time, as this goes through, we would really like to be able to look at the engineering and take a look at how the flow of the water coming off this project is going to potentially influence the northern end of our property. And it's low. We were able to walk it yesterday, tick or no tick. And the fact was that we just would like to be part of that informational process as it goes forward, so that we don't have a finished product and then, oops, we have a flood on our land. In other words, we want to be part of that process as it goes forward. With that in mind, the fence, certainly with the winds being what they are in Oklahoma, a substantial fence to keep debris off of our property. We understand that the 6-foot privacy fence is not going to be built in one fell swoop because of all the work that will have to be done inside of that fencing as you develop each lot. But again, it's we plan on making sure that our fence is the integrity is good. The signage is very prominent. We have a lot of open land, just through a little bit of it, and you have kids coming in and you've got 40 lots. It'd be a great place to have an adventure, not the least of which is you're concerned with the abandoned properties there too, and the danger. We do have a pond on our land, and again, it's just one of those things that we would like a very substantial barrier to simply define that that's not part of this development. With that being said, again, we're not against the development by any means. It's just those concerns. Luke, I'd ask my nephew, who's our neighbor, who was the cause of the lot split. So, but and he is built adjacent to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much. No, you don't need that.
My name is Luke Calvert, and I live at 957 West 115th Street. And I'm the 2.5 acre parcel that was split off of the 10. That's all family land. So I understand that my land is not necessarily directly adjacent to this property. But you know, I do have a little bit of concern as well. And it's hard to keep the emotional kind of stuff out of it, you know, just because I grew up here and, you know, this is Jenks and 3rd generation Jenks, and my kids are 4th generation Jenks. You know, remembering some of what it used to be and what it is now. Progress is still great, but he already touched on some of it. You know, I think some of the fencing idea that he was mentioning is, you know, would it be possible to have some sort of a temporary structure for fencing between or in that interim when construction starts and construction is finished? You know, we understand that privacy fences aren't necessarily going to be built the entire way across, but you know, it will help keep trash and anybody, even during the construction site, from just coming over, throwing anything over onto our land. So there's that. You know, we see temporary chain link fences or whatever around commercial sites or even some residential sites. So just asking for that as part of the consideration. Second, the flooding or the water issue. Most of the water coming from the west and the north seems to be addressed. But as you cross the north boundary of the 10 acre parcel or 7.5 acre of Mr. and Mrs. Rogers, it does low, and then the southwest corner south of where that house is kind of a high spot. And so we just did not know. We've seen the plan topography, have not compared it with the way that it sits today, to be able to, you know, see what the change is actually going to be. We do fear that, you know, building up houses, whether it's 1 foot, 2 foot, whatever that case may be, we know that when water flows, it's not going to go uphill very easy. And so our water does flow towards that north boundary. And so if any of that is built up, we're just afraid of it just essentially keeping that property line soaked. So whether it be a culvert or whatever, I don't really know exactly what's necessary at this point because the grading hasn't been done. But that is another reason that we would like to see the engineering, just to, whether it just makes us feel good or whatever the case may be, just making sure. And I know that everyone that's working on this project is probably doing their due diligence, but just us having to live out there, we don't want it to become an issue if it can be avoided. So the other, just to kind of touch a little bit on what Marseille mentioned, we had mentioned it with Mr. Box yesterday as well when we met with him. One of the things that really frustrated us, and we understand that, meetings were virtual for the planning commission meeting on the 8th, which I believe is the day that this was originally passed with the planning commission. They had addressed some questions with Marseille, and a few of them were brought up, but I don't remember any of them being discussed in detail with the city planning commission. And so then that was just kind of frustrating because the questions were submitted. We did not realize that, well, one, I don't really know the best way to have actually gotten live comments in on that meeting. Because the questions were submitted earlier in a phone conversation, there was not a way for us to chime in during that planning commission meeting to be able to bring up some of these questions and let them hear those same concerns. So we felt like we were effectively silenced a little bit. And so this is really kind of our first chance to speak in front of a large group on the matter. So not knowing how long you guys have actually had to be able to look at this, just we're trying to be a part of the progress as well and don't want to be a hindrance. It seems like we're just a hindrance whenever it seems like it's last minute. So, because this is our first time, like I said, to bring it up. And so, if you guys pass this today, I don't know what the next step is. I know that they want to start building immediately, so just trying to stay out in front of it and not cause any slow progress. So we'd appreciate just some of the considerations that we've asked for. I'll touch on them a little bit, but I won't get worked up on the issue of the easement that she mentioned. Back when we did the lot split, we were forced to give the easement around the perimeter and then the 30-foot of road right of way on the south border. And at the time, I won't say names, the planner that was here, told us, all right, well, you give us these easements for the purpose of us providing services to us if development comes up to us. Well, here we are 5 years later, there's development on the north end. And, we inquire about maybe the possibility of being connected to sewer to get off a septic. We find out that, that's not something that the city does. Their burden is bringing it to the north boundary because that's where it's playing with the development. But it is kind of frustrating whenever you have a change of control in that area and it's becomes hearsay with what we were told in the agreements. And now here's this lot split. Now we have this utility easement that effectively is not getting used. So don't know anything else about that, but anyway, just, now we're sitting here and not like we've built up right to the fence anyway, but, we were forced to give around the entire 10-acre, almost an acre of land, and we're getting no considerations for it. So we'd like maybe there to be something, whether it's an in-between or I don't even know everything else that having multiple conversations already, don't even know what the other options are, but just kind of wanted to bring that up to you gentlemen and ladies as well. So and to the abandoned houses. I know who owns them. I don't know if I should name drop, but they are directly west. One of them is directly west of the 2.5 that I own. It's a 2.5 acre size. That house is probably occupied by coyotes. And then the parcel north of it is a little over, it's about 4 acres. And about a year and a half ago, I think that trailer got struck by lightning. Fire truck got out there, put it out, and it's been sitting ever since. So, I mean, it literally is just garbage sitting over there. So anyway, that's the abandoned houses to the west. That's fun. But anyway, thank you for your time. Finish.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, comments from council? Mr. Rogers, I think I saw you exchange business cards with Mr. McCarty, and I was going to suggest that you guys do that. A lot of these problems are overcome with communication and probably what we call the good neighbor policy. So I'm glad to see you do that. And it's you guys can get involved early on, like we suggested yesterday, and keep an eye on things. The engineering issues, we don't even know if there will be any. And I certainly don't know because I'm not an engineer. But as I encouraged you to yesterday, keep an eye on that and stay in communication with us. And I'm going to hold you. I'm not sure who it was, but when you said something looking into our future capability to deal with problems such as those structures out there, let's actually do that. Let's actually talk about it someday.
It's on my list.
Put that on our to-do list so we don't have to deal with those things anymore. Anyway, no comments from the council? Questions? Any other public comment? Mr. Rogers. Okay, where were we? Item number 7. Any motions on item number 7?
Didn't you mention that 7 and 8?
7 and 8 were together.
Yeah.
Together.
It's one's the PUD and one's the approval. Any considerations from the council for
I'm 7.
temporary fencing, anything at all? Nobody?
I don't know. Oh, okay, so we're still voting 7 separate. Okay.
We still have to vote on one individually, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion for item 7.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a second.
Can we make a motion to approve the correction on page 228 referencing PUD 128, please?
Yeah, you,
Referencing 120.
Yeah, it is 128, but
On this page, it's 127.
as long as it's correct, I think on the agenda in the minutes, which should be good.
oh, we're good. I'll second that motion then.
As long as when people go online, they see it, that it's correct.
Yeah,
I get it correct.
we get it right.
It'll be correct.
So for item number 7, we have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Mason, we call a vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Thank you. And Luke, when this development is long said and done, let's revisit. All houses are done. Everybody's gone. The dirt's cleaned up. We'll talk about what we talked about the other day. Thank you. Item number 8, request to approve ordinance number 1551 relating to PUD 128.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on item number 8. Vote please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes, item number 9 is the emergency clause for ordinance number 1551, making it effective immediately upon passage.
Motion approved.
Okay.
We have a motion and we have a second. Vote please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 10 is the request to approve the preliminary plat for estates at Ridge Hollow. General location is south of First Street and west 111th Street. Page 243 in your packet, if you're following along, Mrs. Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff. This item is everything we just talked about. It is part of the approved PUD 128. And Approving it will allow them to move forward with their full engineering and site layout, et cetera. I have no further comments unless you have questions.
Any further questions for Mrs. Hilton? Item number 10. No questions, no comments?
I guess, and she goes from, in looking at this, I'm sure that you've looked at it with the turnaround and everything, it's all good to go with fire. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from council? We don't need to open this to public. If not, can we have a motion? Item number 10.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second for item number 10. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item number 11 is a request to approve JZ Jinx zoning 21 PUD public PUD 116. A request by Robert Bell for approval of a minor amendment to PUD 116. General location is the northwest corner of 131st Street and Harvard. This is page 245 in your packet, Mrs. Hilton.
Thank you, Counselor, or Mayor Box. Council and staff. This item is a minor amendment to a project that has already been approved and is underway. So back in, I think, 2019 in May, PUD 116 was approved for a residential subdivision named Fraser Meadows. It had gone through the preliminary plat. They were working on the final plat. They sent in their submittal, and there's been a few changes in staff since they started the project. And at that time, there was different staff, and the new staff took a fresh set of eyes, looked at it and said, hey, we have some issues with this. And basically, as it was laid out, the primary street kind of ran diagonal, and they had it on top of some utilities that had some active lines in it, and staff was not comfortable with that. Started a very intense dialogue between the developer and the staff, and they very graciously, over many weeks, worked through the process of redesigning it, and most of it is the same. We just basically shifted it down. So there's two requests. I'll go ahead and go through. This went to Planning Commission on April 8th, 2021. The Planning Commission had questions about setbacks. They had questions about rear yard setbacks. They approved it 6-1 with one planning commissioner being absent. The final plat was also approved 6-1 with one planning commissioner being absent. Phase 1, as presented, has 100 single-family residential lots on public streets and 2 reserves. There are 2 requests, which you're going to see on page 205 of the staff report or page 246 of your packet. Number 1 says recommendation of approval of PUD 116. I apologize. Minor amendment number 1 would allow for the realignment of 130th Street South. Would also allow for a change of lot alignment in block 4, which also that in itself allows for smaller lot widths and allows for an alternate street design. I call them small stub out streets. So it's something that we haven't really done or seen. The public safety has looked at it. We don't have any concerns. It's just different. It's not, it becomes its own private hammerhead for public safety instead of a cul-de-sac. Redesign of 128. This would accommodate lot 11, block 8, and accommodate future development to the north. So just so that you know, there was a project on the Planning Commission agenda called Fraser Lakes, which is directly north of this project by the same developer. Oh, sorry, Falls. Gee, there's a lot of Frasers. So Fraser Falls is directly north. They, the developer has it under contract and has a project there. Planning Commission had some concerns. We're working through those with the developer and with staff. So it will come back next week. But my point is, in saying that, is there is a potential realignment of the street. At that time, you will see the final plat one more time before it gets filed, if that happens. If it does not happen, it will go to county to be approved as is. The technical advisory committee met on March 23rd and had some comments. One Oak has a high pressure gas line through there, through that whole area. They have some very, they've always gotten the information, but for some reason now we have 6 contacts for them. And I don't know if they all 6 look at it, but they're all 6 copied on every single thing we do. So that's good. They're looking at it very closely and I appreciate that. We don't want anything to happen. So they've really been very vocal on all of these developments and they have some requirements, nothing outrageous. If you look on page 247, these were the conditions that were part of the city council approval in May of 2019, and all of those are being met. It is in Council Ward 3. The current zoning is PUD 116 with an underlying RS2. It is a residential single-family subdivision. It meets the intent of the comprehensive plan. On this particular plat that you will see, along with this minor amendment, there are 26.74 acres in phase 1 with 100 lots and 8 blocks. On page 248, you can see I have an arrow there showing the development area. And then, of course, potentially if Planning Commission reviews it and agrees, this area will come to you next for development. There are probably other details. I'm not going to really go into all of them. It's a project that's already been approved. It's a minor amendment primarily because we wanted the street moved off of those easements and off of that line. So with that being said, staff recommends approval. Planning Commission and TAC also recommend approval of the final plat of Fraser Meadows, which is the next one, and of the PUD minor amendment number 1 to realign the lots and streets. So that's, I kind of talked about item 11 and 12.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, comments from the council? Is there a reduction in the number of lots?
No.
How much smaller are the lot widths?
Nothing really changed except for those little odd lots, and I'll show you.
Which is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11.
Right here.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
Page is that?
That's on the,
Oh.
it's this right here.
On the plat.
Yeah, can we talk about that for just a second?
Yes.
Because why are they, I mean, you have streets, let me get my glasses on, I'm sorry. You have streets between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, 12. There's a street, and all these are dead ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why did it line up like that instead of going like this? I mean, because all these houses that are going 2 through 12,
right?
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, the houses that are going to be in this other addition, the side of their house is going to be looking into somebody's backyard.
Correct. The basically in the process of negotiating and the time that it took for us to convince them that we were not going to let them move forward with the plat without moving the street. Part of the give and take between staff and the developer and consultant was to allow them to do this, these little lots, which increased the number of lots they could sell.
Where
How many of those lots?
you talk about the space between 2 and 4?
Well, there's a
Staying
street
in phase
between 1, 2,
2.
3, and 4. There's a, like,
Yeah.
1 and 2 is a house.
Mhm.
1 is a house, 2 is a house, then you have a street. Then 3 is a house, 4 is a house, 5 is a house, 6 is a house, then there's a street, then you have another group of 4.
And that was required, like public safety weighed in, and at the end of the day, that was the best solution that we came up with for the compromise.
So none of those streets lead anywhere, they're dead ends.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it's different because it's not a cul-de-sac, it's more like a hammerhead.
And we don't have any issue with, I'm sorry, Chief Oster,
Great
we don't have
place to
any
go.
issue as far as getting any kind of emergency vehicle down that little street, if that house was on fire.
Those stub out streets meet the requirements of IFC
2015 Appendix D, we're talking about a hammerhead. That's the type of turnaround that's allowed for a fire truck.
So they
So they'll
can't,
meet that, yes.
okay, okay.
It is very odd.
It's very odd, especially if you're buying the lots on the other side here. I mean, there's gonna be a whole broad of a house and it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
The type subdivision is.
I think it's advantageous.
I don't.
Do you
I
think
think
it's
it's
standard subdivision? Well, the lots may not sell in the end. Maybe that nobody wants to live there.
Let me ask a question. I think I know the answer to this. With respect to, for example, lot 3, 4, 5, and 6, if they were flipped 90 degrees, they could put 4 lots in, but they wouldn't be deep enough to put a house on. Is that correct?
Is that why they're aligned the way they are instead of putting them just like the other?
Right.
So if they-
There's just not
Access is off of the little street, not the.
Yeah, like, you know, the
Like
guy-
over accesses. I'm
lot
just saying.
6, obviously, there's only one place to put his driveway. Lot 5, he can do a side load or
Front load.
they've got lots of options. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 that, you know, they better not have a lot premium on
4,
those.
6, 8, 10, and 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, they're limited.
My question
what
was,
they are, but
if they flipped those lots 90 degrees, would they not be deep enough to build a home on?
It was just the preference. They would be deep, but probably not deep enough.
Okay. I mean, I was just thinking we could do away with the streets and put them to mirror the houses across the way. I mean, that was my vision, but
But
I don't
not
think
that-
they're deep enough
that
to
line.
build a house on.
Not with sidewalk.
Yeah.
Can you zoom into that area, please?
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Right. Right to the bottom there. These 12 lots, right?
Yes, well,
These right there. See how there's street.
Yeah, it was a very extraordinary design.
yeah.
but it's one that they're all happy with. And the burden to sell the homes is on them.
Very true.
As long as we feel like it's a safe place to live and
Well, that was my concern
Yeah.
with fire.
I could easily see someone buying 2 lots if there was in their budget,
Mhm.
so that they didn't have a.
Yeah.
right next to them.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, especially safety wise, so thank you, chief.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, what about the applicant? Mr. Bell? Please don't turn down an opportunity to speak.
My name is Robert Bell. I live at 1011 West G, Mayor Black, members of council. Thank you. And there's a lot of good questions in that. And recognize that there's 2 pipelines. One is City of Glen Pools and the other is an oil company with a water pipeline that it parallels that road now. It used to be under the road. So what we did is those lots on the north side have gotten longer to allow those to be in the front yard of those lots. We moved the right of way to the south, and even the current design, and I just wanted to correct, we lost several lots in that process. Now, to pay for all this, we added lots from phase 2 back in, so they could pay for that movement of the road. Now, that road and driveway look that you're seeing is consistent with what is over on the Oral Roberts has a development behind it. I think it's called University. But it's kind of consistent with that, with the stub out roads going through, several driveways coming off of that road. This is a little cleaner than that. But there is a development in the area that is similar in nature to this. And when we first all kind of fell on this, there wasn't a lot of options. The developer went above and beyond, I think, to try to accommodate, since we were so far into the game, and cost us 6 or 7 months to go back through DQ, to go back through all the approval process. So this was the design, the plat changes. I would, and we have the development going through the process right now that if that next development is approved, we may be able to take a street connection out on the north end of that. And so this plat changes in that regards. And that was what Marsh was talking about. There may be some changes related to that in the future. We will make sure that all these lots that are on the south side of the road are at least 50 foot wide. So whether we have to go, we could get a foot or two on out of phase 2, they'll be 50 foot wide. Our builders are required that. So if you have any questions of me, I'm supportive of everything Marseille said.
Questions or comments for Mr. Bell?
So this is a quick question. This is set up as RS3.
It's an RS2 subdivision. Do
you anticipate in the future that the developer coming back and asking to put multifamily units on there, like duplexes or quadplexes or anything like that? Do you anticipate that?
There has been some discussion in regards to the comprehensive plans change in the area for a suburban residential designation that's happened. That does change the character possibilities for those properties. Is it multifamily? No. Does it allow for the city to move forward with a empty nester development down south type scenario? It does, but it doesn't change your dwelling units per acre characterization any at that point, but it does open the opportunity to look at some different markets that haven't been allowed in South Jenks.
Sure, but this property itself, you don't foresee them coming back and asking for duplexes or quadplexes in those smaller lots.
Definitely. I mean, definitely not. And on that lotting pattern that you're seeing right now, that's not going to happen.
Thank you.
And we stayed away from the RS3 zone because of the duplex idea. The new stuff is moving towards where you allowing some RS3 down south. I think that'll be addressed in the zoning code when you remodify that. You've got smaller lots all over the community that are zoned RS2. And the reason for that is the size of lot that is marketable. It's not the large open space. It's putting the infrastructure issues into the open space in those areas and allowing that people that want smaller land instead of having the maintenance of a big lot and a big house. This is the size they wanted, and for years that's what has been established. And so the density level related to whether it's a RS3 or RS2 and a 50-foot wide lot or a 60-foot wide lot, all that's blended together.
Right. And I was just trying to distinguish between single family and multifamily, not RS2 or 3 or anything like that. And you answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Marcy. You have a question? The underlying zoning would ultimately be irrelevant, and the PUD dictates what can and can't be built. And in this case, it wouldn't have mattered if it was RS3 or RS2. The PUD says it is single family residential, and that's would be the end of the discussion. If they came back and wanted to do anything else, it would be a major amendment. They'd have to go through the entire process of advertising to everyone within a 300-foot radius, and you all would hear. And you also have the right to deny it, that you don't have to approve an amendment to a PUD. That's up to you.
Thank you.
Any more comments on item number 11? Close the floor to the council. Anything more from the applicant? Public comment? No public comment on item number 11. We have a motion to approve item number 11.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. Item number 12 is the request to approve the final plat of Fraser Meadows. Same general location, northwest corner of 131st Street in Harvard. This is Mrs. Hilton, and this is page 251 in the packet if you're following along.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is the project we've just been discussing, and I have it.
Any comments from the council? We have a motion to approve item number 12, the final plat, Fraser Meadows.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. And before we go into executive session, I'd like to ask the city attorney, for the sake of our new members and for the sake of our public, we don't do these executive sessions very often, so I've asked our city attorney to kind of brief us on what executive sessions are and our roles and responsibilities, so the public can know why we disappear and what we do when we're gone. Thank you, Mrs. Nolan.
Yes, an executive session is a session that is just council and the pertinent staff members, and occasionally there may be someone else that is needed for the executive session item. The Oklahoma statutes only allow executive sessions on a specific list of subject matters, and we have to put that exact subject matter and the statutory authorization here in our agenda. Generally here, the council will vote to go in executive session, and we go over in this side room. Whatever is discussed in executive session is confidential, and we can only discuss that items. No votes are taken in executive session. Council always comes back out to vote on any related item.
And what are the 4 reasons you can go into executive session?
It'll be a test to get them all, but primarily the purchase or appraisal of real estate is one of them. To discuss confidential personnel matters is one of them. To discuss pending claims and litigation is a common one that we go into. We can go into executive session for limited discussions of economic development where the confidentiality is necessary to make a deal or move a contract forward. Not all general executive or economic development justifies it. Those are really the 4 that we generally see. There are a few others that apply to some other entities. I believe we're also we're allowed to go and discuss collective bargaining is a new addition to executive session.
So
Those are
litigation would actually be legal/litigation.
Any pending claim litigation, it's not just general, not any attorney advice doesn't justify it, but if it's discussing a pending claim or litigation, and then that one is only upon my advice that it's needed to have confidential attorney-client communications.
Are you in favor of the council having the liberty to discuss any of those 4, any of the conditions of those 4 items, even if they're not represented in the agenda?
No, they must be represented in the agenda. We have to vote to go into an executive for that specific purpose.
Okay. Thank you. And for the sake of our new folks and really anybody who wants to know more about Robert's Rules of Order, that gentleman in the back is former counselor Bo Summers, and he probably knows more about that than anybody. So you should get his phone number before you leave, and you should make sure you have a good hour and he'll tell you everything you need to know about Robert's Rules of Order, because
Well,
nobody knows
I'll
better,
say one-
nobody knows better
one
than
comment on
Bo.
that, because last year, when I asked about Robert's Rules of Order, you said we never adopted it. So
We have never formally, well, we have not formally adopted procedural rules, and we have also not adopted Robert's rules. We do, though, if we want to figure out what we should be doing or how to handle it, they're always instructive and helpful, but they're intended for much larger bodies and are more formal than this body generally tends to follow, but they can be helpful and instructive for us.
yeah, so I just want to be clear that we don't always go by Robert's Rules of Order.
We try.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, very well. Did you catch all that, Bo? Can you brief him, Sherry? I did everything but give out his cell phone number.
Which you will not do.
Yeah. Item number 13 is request to enter executive session to discuss the purchase of real property pursuant to Title 25, Section 307B3, property located lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Block 32 and lots 1 and 2, Block 33, and all of the vacated South Ash Street between blocks 32 and 33, the original town of Jinx. Do we have a motion?
Motion to go to executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. 1, 2, 3. Records show that the council has returned from executive session at 8:05 PM. No votes were cast. And we are moving on to item number 14. Item 14, request to approve contract for sale and purchase of real estate for property generally described as lots 1, 2, 3, 4, blocks 32, and lots 1 and 2, block 33, and all of the vacated South Ash Street between blocks 32 and 33, original town of Jenks, Tulsa County, state of Oklahoma, according to the recorded plat thereof, and authorizing the city manager to sign the contract and all closing documents and any related agreements. This is page 254 in the packet if you're following along. Any last questions or concerns from council? No questions or concerns. We have a motion for item 14.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, congratulations. Big deal. Item number 15, request to approve resolution number 732, a resolution amending the annual appropriations by $2,500,000 in account number 10-245-5391, which is the City General Fund Community Development for Land, for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2021 to fund the purchase of real property, as already mentioned before, located where I was already mentioned before. Mr. Robert Salceda, this is page 265 if you're following along.
Mayor, members of council, or members, the format that you'll see of
Robert, can you take your mask off, please? I'm sorry.
the resolution format that you'll see is kind of our standard template to show any supplemental appropriations. So a supplemental appropriation is money that wasn't originally appropriated when council approved the budget back in June. So we are just amending the appropriations. It usually comes out of fund balance, and we note the fund, the account, and the line item that the budget is allocated.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from council for Mr. Salceda? If there's no questions, do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on item number 15. Let's vote, please.
Lynn, Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. All right, moving on to other business. The city manager's report, page 267, your packet, Mr. Shroud.
Mayor and all members of council, you have the department update in your packet. We have some upcoming events real quick, and I know that some of these are the chambers, but I'll touch on them anyway. We have the chamber lunch tomorrow at the Hive. We have the chamber annual banquet Thursday at the aquarium. And so if any of the council members want to attend any chamber events, you can always let Sarah Tackmill know and she can get you registered. We have the Jenks Urban Plant Festival this Saturday from 8 to 4. There's a prescription drug take back Saturday on the same day from 10 to 2 with there's no locations in Jenks, but there's some locations in Tulsa at Walgreens and different research. We have the citywide garage sale Saturday, May 1st. The food truck festival is also Saturday, May 1st. And then we have the Kiwanis Club Trash Bash, which the city provides employees to help the Kiwanis Club. And that's Saturday, May 8th. In addition to that, we hope to schedule a retreat with council. And I know that the incoming mayor is interested in doing that potentially in May or June, probably on a Friday or Saturday if we could. And so I think that staff is going to try to work with council to determine, if there is any availability on, if we have any dates where everybody's available on a Friday or a Saturday to get together and kind of talk about, the vision for the future and how we can work together to make that happen. I don't know if you have any comments on that at this time.
Yeah, along those lines, if you know anyone who's good at facilitating these kinds of executive strategy sessions, my wife and I have already contacted the CEO of the Persimmon Group. Could be pretty big price tag, but the goal is for us to, we're probably talking an 8-hour day. Probably go through a SWOT analysis. We'll probably beforehand, just to get to know each other better, we'll ask all of us to do a DISC personality test before we show up. Do we do that at Hilti, or was that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to know each other, our leadership styles, but we need a good facilitator. This meeting is not about me. It's not about him. It's about us. And the last thing we need to do is be flipping charts. So SWOT analysis, team building, executive leadership, somebody who can help us in 8 hours determine our long-term and short-term strategic plan and vision, you know, and do this in a comfortable environment. If you know anybody that does that, let them know we are interested. And we will figure out how to maybe get a cost from them. I think it's important. I don't think we haven't done this in 40 years. The previous mayor didn't do this. And if I don't do it, Vic Vreeland's going to wring my neck because he's been screaming about it forever. Kelly Dunkerley was the last one to try to do it. I don't think they could schedule it, but just keep that in your mind. We're talking about 8 hours, and it doesn't have to be on a Friday. We want to accommodate everybody. So just keep that in the back of your head.
And the reason I said Friday too is because if we're, depending on where we want to do this, like, you know, we had mentioned Spain Ranch or Five Oaks, and they're really, I mean, they have weddings and stuff Saturdays. There's not much availability. But if we wanted to do it at like the Hive, I think that there's a lot more, it'd be pretty simple to do that on a Saturday at the Hive.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to spend more money on facilitation and less money on the location.
Yeah, and I'd like to throw out there though, to get someplace where we haven't been 100 times, someplace new, someplace. That's what my thinking.
The Cape Brewing Company sounds like a great idea.
No, but I'm thinking.
We could drink
like
beer all
a-
day.
You know, they have the hotels have the conference rooms and stuff. There's
Right.
possibility we could do that.
Yeah. I just, someplace that inspires ideas and collaboration. I think something fresh would be nice.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to the Hive or the aquarium, but on the other hand, I get this.
I get distracted at the aquarium.
Yeah, well, we used to go out to Five Oaks, and, you know, it's nice to be able to stare at the
Or
pond
Post Oaks.
during the breaks.
Or Post Oaks.
Yeah. So anyway, keep it in mind. Idea is we're spending taxpayers' money, and we need to be, you know, that's always a concern. So we're going to be spending money. It's worth the investment, but let's spend their money as if it were our money. So anyway, get those ideas to Mr. Shroud, and we'll figure out the best way to do that. Anything else, my friend?
The JAA bonds were sold this morning. We were able to receive 7.5 million in addition. So they were priced out. I guess they were priced out at something like 22 or 22.5 million. Yeah, and the term is through 2045. So the parameters that the JAA gave staff at the last JAA meeting, I guess that would be in March, was to have no less than 6.75 million left over once the 2014 revenue bonds were retired, and also not to exceed a term of 2046. And so because we got 7.5 million and the term doesn't exceed 2045, we were within those parameters. And so I think it was a successful bond sale. And Kenny is already working on the design of the quarantine building as well as the mini golf. And so I think now that we have this additional cash, we can also look at much needed repairs to the roof as well. And we'll be discussing that further with the JAA in May and most likely with council as well. Senate Bill 838, which would allow communities to create public safety districts within their communities and utilize property tax to fund the districts, was approved by the House today, 58-40. It now moves to the governor's office for signature. And I don't know how familiar everyone is with that, but that would allow communities in the state of Oklahoma to essentially levy a property tax with the vote of the people to specifically fund public safety operations and capital expenditures. And so OML and a lot of communities in the state have been working hard on that for years. And I think it's a good option depending on what type of community you are and what type of needs you have. And so the governor still has to sign it, but I think that any time we have a diversified funding opportunity for our operations, I think that's a good thing. We don't have any immediate plans, but we'll be talking with council and talking with our chiefs of police and departments about, if we're meeting the needs. And I think we certainly are right now, but it's just another option in the future. And House Bill 1566, which would allow the aquarium to keep the state sales tax that they collect at the facility, that passed through the House, I believe in March. It passed through the Senate earlier in April, but with some amendments. So it went back to the House, and I think that'll be voted on next week. And if that's approved by the House, it would go to the governor's office for his signature. And that's a potential really revenue of like $160,000 to $170,000 a year that we could use on mainly for marketing and out-of-state marketing. So that's a big potential win. Is we're on the verge of that. And then last week was Animal Control Officers Week, and I think the mayor had a proclamation for the animal control officer. And I think Katie, you got a picture with them perhaps yesterday. And it was also it wasn't Dispatch Appreciation Week, but it was
telecommunicators for public safety.
Yeah. So, and both of those were last week, and we recognized them, and Katie did a good job recognizing them on social media. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
And, Senator Cody Rogers, our state senator, and I can't remember the House bill, and I'm not going to look it up because it's on my phone, but I'm going to email you a request from his office. He's asking for us to support House Bill XXXX. You guys are voters. You don't have to support it if you don't want, but if you read it over and you like it and you agree and you want to help support Cody, Senator Rogers, push that forward, please use your platform of choice to do that. I think we'll find that Cody is going to be a good partner with us, and he's going to stay pretty engaged. That he really wanted to be here tonight, but there's work to be done. So I'll email those to you as soon as I get an opportunity. All right. Thank you, Mr. Shrout. And last, item number 2 and under other business is Mr. Isbell. Anything from Incog you'd like to share?
Yes. We had a meeting 4/13, and I'm going to mention some of the items that we discussed, but I want to direct you to the legislative summary Chris sent out to us on 4/12. From Fred Jordan, as well as www.oklegislature.gov. And if you want to get more details or more up-to-date information on these bills, we did talk about House Bill 1566 briefly, which was the aquarium sales tax. House Bill 1001, the Sergeant Johnson Metals Theft Act, if you're familiar with that one. It makes it much more difficult for people to recycle stolen metals. I'm just going to put it like that. For more, again, go to oklegislature.gov. House Bill 1770, the Bicycle Safety Act, makes it an offense, and I can't remember if it was a felony or just an offense to harass people on bicycles from your vehicles. It also allows the bicycle rider to run red lights if it is safe, to not stop for stop signs and put their foot down to keep traffic continuing. So if you want to read more on that, that's House Bill 1770. House Bill 838, the Public Safety District that Mr. Shrout discussed. State Bill 1031 removes the sunset date for video conferencing. That one hasn't been finalized yet. State Bill 4034, unlawful to disrupt public meetings or any political subdivisions like our gathering here. That's very important to me. House Bill 2504, state control over county health departments. That was voted down. That leaves the larger counties the ability to manage the county and the cities they're in. State Bill 728, county reapportionment based on census has been extended to 11/30/2021. That is usually October 31st, but they have extended it another month because of everything that's gone on in the last year. There was discussion about senior nutrition. They're opening up the senior nutrition centers and with social distancing, and they're getting about 60% of the participants coming in for food. That's a good thing. That's something that's been closed down for many months and provides nutrition for seniors. I emailed everyone here. I hope you got it. I hope I got all the email addresses correct. The transportation, the 2020 to 2025 Incog transportation document. Read that at your leisure. That's one of the many things Incog does provide, transportation. There are 11 area programs that we funded with enhanced mobility for seniors. Those are in the 5-county area. I have that here if you want to go over it. None of them are directly related to James. We discussed the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. The allocations, I have those here as well, but I'm only going to talk about 2 of them. Tulsa County was allocated $126 million, and Jenks itself was allocated $3.82 million, 50-50. We'll get 50% this year and 50% in a year from now. And I think it's May 11. I can't remember exactly, but in the coming days, we'll get 50% of the 3.82 million, and a year from now, the other 50%. We will have until 2024 to spend that money on water, sewer, and broadband. There was some discussion regarding broadband services with regard to state legislation that will have to be ironed out between now and then. But for us, we get 3.82, 50% this in May, and 50% a year from now. Any questions? Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Isbell. Any other last minute comments from council? Anything? C-tag, anything? You don't have a C-tag update, do you? You ever want to?
It's basically the same.
Okay. Don't worry.
Yes, I was just telling Gary that. I was like, exactly what we just covered.
Any closing comments before we adjourn? Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Sorry.
Motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes, we're adjourned at 8:20. I'll say this quickly. The first bottle of water is on me at Elm Street PUD tonight. Okay? If you'd like to join us, we originally wanted to extend this invitation for a beer. I'm buying your.
Beer to water.
If it's distilled, filtered, high alkaline, low alkaline, I don't. Okay, thank you. Anybody need a break before we continue?
No, let's go on.
I'm sorry?
Let's go.
Go, move.
We want the water. Rocky Mountain spring water.
Yes. You guys ready? We got one more.
Hey, we're not going anywhere.
You didn't know,
It was a good joke, you know.
We just start talking about alcohol and they.
You council members.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Jenks Public Works Authority. Today is still Tuesday, April 20th of 2021. It is approximately 8:22 p.m. It appears all of our trustees are present. Mr. Macy, would you please call roll?
Caitlin?
Here.
Isbell?
Present.
Murray? Here. Klein? Present. Short?
Here.
OJ?
Here.
Chair Box?
Here, let the record reflect that all our trustees are present and we are called to order. Item number 1. We'll figure this out. Consideration, I'm going to bring my glasses next. Consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of the consent agenda. You guys are familiar with this. All matters listed on consent are considered by the authority to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any board member may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is non-debatable.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Let's vote, please, sir.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes. Item number 2, we will pull. Moving on to item number 3, request to approve the award of the Parkview Estates Patch Project, West 108th Street South to A&A Asphalt out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, in the amount of $36,032.52. Funding for the same to be provided from the existing fiscal year 2021 budget, account number 53-521-5393, which is commonly called Street Maintenance Preventive Maintenance Program account. This is Mr. Cloyd, and we are on page 153 if you are so inclined to follow along.
Thank you, Chair, members of the authority. Localized area of Parkview Estates addition, specifically the 1400 block of West 108th Street, shown some pavement subgrade failure in the form of deep pavement deformation, as well as alligator cracking. Drive across some of our streets, you may have seen that before and wondered, what do I call that? It's alligator cracking when it looks like the back of an alligator. Engineering staff decided that total removal and replacement of that pavement subgrade is necessary there. So the project was designed and sent out to 6 contractors, 2 of which responded. Bids were opened on April 5th of this year. And you can see the bid tabulation below compared to the engineer's estimate. All the bids came in fairly close. The apparent low bidder was A&A Asphalt in the amount of $36,032.52. Staff requests the approval of the Parkview Estates Patch Project to A&A Asphalt for that amount. This is a project that was funded by the budget. It's the money for this is within the budget. However, it's over the $25,000 limit that the city manager can approve. So I need to bring this to you for approval. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Floyd?
I have one question. Just for future reference, if how binding are these contracts, for instance, if the underlying material cost inflates, do we have to, sorry, I assume this is fixed price.
It is fixed bid, yes.
Does that happen very often? The material cost, asphalt, oil based?
And for your knowledge, I've been here since October. So the projects that I've dealt with since I've been here, we bring them for the authority or the council in this kind of situation fairly soon after we open the bid. So there's not a lot of time that goes on.
That's fine.
It's more about when you hear of, well, wait, we've got a geo bond that was back in 2010 and we're just now bringing, those are different type of situations. But this type of situation, there's such a short amount of time. I don't think that we'll have much change in the amount of materials. But very good question. Thank you.
I think some of the times we've had the issues has been when they've come across a water line that they didn't know was there, and we have to allocate more money to come back on that. So, yeah. So some things do happen, yes, but as far as the price, I guess they have pretty well locked in. I mean, as long as we don't go too far out, because I think it said something here, they were guaranteed until August or something, the price on the materials.
August 31st. Okay. Yeah, it's a firm price on the asphalt.
Building materials, yes, have gone up, especially lumber, in a crazy amount.
But this will be completed before then?
Yes.
This is just one, this is one location, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of 2 areas on one street that are fairly close together.
Okay.
3 in front of 3 houses.
Yeah, I actually walked it with the neighbor back in September. It was pretty awful. You know, now I know why. I live on West 108th Street South, and I don't live in this neighborhood. And now I know why nobody can find my house. There's another West 108th Street South in Parkview Estates, and I live on West 108th Street South, and I don't live in Parkview Estates.
Yeah.
Is the address right, or that explains it? I'll have to tell my wife. Any other questions or comments from the council on item number 3? Once.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short? Okay.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Shroud, anything additional you want to add to the general manager's report?
You have your engineering projects weekly update in the packet. We'd be happy to answer any questions. If not,
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we'd like to welcome Josh Driscoll from the Chamber for your monthly report. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, members of the authority, it's great to be back here in person without my dog playing with the squeaky toilet during a meeting. So I appreciate being back here and staying with office. That embarrassed me. To build on something Chris noted related to the aquarium bill, I was texting with Representative Sims, and he said he needs to sign off on the Senate amendments on the bill, and it'll be shipped off to the governor's office, and he expects that to be Monday or Tuesday. Councilor Lynn, to follow up on our conversation about going to the Capitol, we may still be doing that actually to talk with the lieutenant governor in particular to make sure that we've got plenty of support coming from the administration. And this isn't viewed as a one-off bill or special treatment for Jenks. That is an area of concern, but we're still fairly optimistic this bill will be signed into law. Something else, Councilor Lynn and I spent a lot of time talking about legislative stuff the last week. We talked a lot about the Main Street Highway 75 bridge is not on ODOT's 8-year plan. I think both of us were equally enraged, may not be too strong of a word, but we were very upset. But I had the opportunity to talk to Tim Gatz last week and invited him over to Jenks again so we could talk to him about the development, the new pressure we're seeing on that interchange, and he accepted that. So we'll be working with Mr. Carr, Mr. Shroud, and others to get him here and to reinforce that we need to figure something out. At the very least, we need the on and off ramp repaired to where it's not like driving across the surface of the moon, or as I colorfully described it, a street in Afghanistan post-war. So we're looking forward to that meeting. Just a few things, you've got your report. A few highlights here, obviously the library situation we've talked about. We also discussed a little bit about a potential development in downtown Jenks that would be buying a dilapidated piece of property and maximizing it with some good uses, but we expect more on that probably in May. But we've been working on that quite a bit. Talking about breweries, we met with a couple who are looking at starting a second brewery here in Jenks. I'm not a beer person, but I understand people like it. So we're continuing that conversation, looking forward to that one as well. In addition to a couple of new restaurants, a couple of national restaurant chains Zach and our staff has been working with. They're listed near the report. If you'd like to talk specifically, we can talk outside of an open session. But we've got that going on. I will say, and I said it last month, but we're seeing it more. I talked to Councilor Murray earlier. We've really seemed to rounded a corner. We're seeing just an unimaginable number of people responding to phone calls now, reaching out and showing interest. So we're really excited about that. We are working much to the chagrin of Councilor Isabel, working with a chocolatier here in the area that's looking at potentially coming to Jenks. So we got to clear.
I don't think it is. My wife is going to spend all my money.
Yeah, so get ready to up your credit card limit.
Thanks for confirming.
And then just a side note too, we had a ribbon cutting last month for a new business at Riverwalk. Letterman's Lounge is near. Oh gosh, it's down from where Marin's used to be. So we're also working on a potential user for that space as well. We had a really good walkthrough with the leasing agent and then the potential tenant. I want to talk to you about that last week or the week before. Last week. Yeah, last week. Just a quick note too, another event this Friday is our April legislative breakfast at 7:30 a.m. at the Hive. No reservation required. Come on in. We're going to have Representative Dills is confirmed. Senator Rogers is out of town, but Representative Sims will probably be there as well. Typically, they give an update legislation they're working on what's going on at the Capitol. It seems like the logjam between the House and Senate has gotten better in the last 2 days, so that's good news for us. But with that, I will end and open it up for questions, comments, or griping at me about chocolate places.
Letterman's Lounge.
It's a pub, probably the best way to describe it. It's got they're known for their old fashions. And they do some kind of mixology thing with them.
Is it a cigar type environment? Okay.
I don't believe there's any smoke. And they do have outdoor patio seating, which is, I think, nice for people who do like to smoke.
Smoke cigarettes or something like that.
You could have a cigarette, vape, and maybe a cigar.
No, old fashioned.
What can you say about Restore? Ribbon cutting.
Restore ribbon cutting, yes. Those of us who were able to make it, a great day. Habitat for Humanity obviously is a great organization. Restore is kind of their retail front. They took the place that has been mostly known as a Halloween logo for the last 10 years or so. And I think did a great job renovating it and really turning it into something that'll be good for the community at large, greater Tulsa, but also I think has cleaned up that storefront. And a box that size is difficult to find a user for. So Restore, I think, was a good fit, and I think they'll be a nice addition, especially for residents in Jenks. And Counselor Isbell's there, Counselor Murray. We're glad to have you both there in attendance. Any of you buy anything? Or have you gone back?
Donated money.
Yeah, donated money, and my wife and I went in the other night. They are open till 8, I believe.
Yeah, they've got like-
So, yeah, open in the evening. It was interesting walkthrough. Haven't been able to get out much, and this was a great experience for us.
But the CEO is very great to work with. We've had some conversations since then as well about some other possibilities that hopefully in the near future we could talk about. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Josh.
Anything else from council?
The authority.
Oh, correct. That's my one. Any other comments or questions from the authority? Members of the authority?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. Let's vote, please.
Galen?
Yes.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.